1967. I was a 20-year-old soldier flying as crew chief door gunner on a Huey helicopter in South Vietnam. And it was early in my tour, and we flew a mission to a place called Nui Bai Den, a Black Virgin Mountain. Actually, it was at the foot of the mountain because the VC basically had the middle of the mountain, and there was an American base on the top. I think it was a Special Forces camp or a group of First Infantry or somebody at the top, but we didn't control the area. This is a part of Vietnam where the Parrot Speak, the part of Cambodia, comes into South Vietnam, and all the trails from the famous Ho Chi Minh trails empty there. And they go off into the Delta, and they go off into Saigon area, into War Zone C and D, and it's a pretty bad area. But during this time, there was an operation there, and there was a base camp set up. It didn't have watchtowers and walls or anything. Basically, it was strands of barbed wire stretched around an open area with sentries and troops. And we landed there to take a lunch break and to refuel. And while we were there, on the ground, all of a sudden, we hear this sound, a small explosion. Boom. And we look around, there's like 6 flatbed semi-trucks that are parked there, and they got artillery shells, machine gun rounds, mortar rounds, small ammo. And the explosion from, I'm assuming, a VC, somebody that penetrated the perimeter came in and blew it up. But all of a sudden, the trucks were on fire, and the fire was heating up the rounds, and the artillery rounds and the machine gun rounds and everything were popping off. And the artillery rounds would go straight up in the air, and they'd come down and land randomly all over the place. We were initially knocked off our feet. We got ourselves together, and the pilots scattered one way, and me and my door gunner ran looking for a safe place to go. There was a hole. It was dug. People were taking dirt out of there for sandbags or whatever, but there was a hole there, an impression. So we jumped into that to get out of the surface area where the rounds were going off. And when I got in there, I just had this uneasy feeling that, nope, this is the wrong place at the wrong time. Had to get out of there. My job was to get myself and my gunner out of that hole. Now, we just got into there where it was considered safe. And now I'm telling my gunner, we got to get out of this hole. And so he was struggling with me, didn't want to leave, didn't want to get back out there where these rounds are flying around. And I just grabbed him. And I started pulling him. I said, we got to get out of this hole now. And I dragged him, I threw him out of the hole, and we crawled and half ran to another hole where there was already a couple of guys in it. And if you know anything about combat, you don't really want to put all the troops in one hole in case one round hits. It's never a good idea. But anyway, there was 4 of us in this hole. And everybody's mad at me for crowding into this hole, and everybody's yelling at me and thinking I'm crazy. And I'm trying to tell them, no, we had to get out of that hole. And just as I'm telling them that, there's this loud boom, boom, and the ground shakes, and there's smoke and there's fire, and we look out the hole. The hole that we previously had been in had a direct hit from an artillery shell that came straight down on it. Had we stayed in that hole another 30 seconds, we would have been goners. It was a direct hit. Everybody in the hole grew silent. Everybody stopped arguing with me. Later on that day, when everything settled down and our rounds stopped going off, we went back to the helicopter, which for some reason had no holes in it. We inspected it. There was no rounds, no shrapnel, and anything. And we were to take off and fly back. And going back, crew was silent, but I was very thoughtful, and I'm thinking, how did I know that? But there was this inner voice. It was like my guardian angel was talking to me. It was like, get out of the hole. Move now. And so I followed my inner voice. And it saved not only my life, but that of my gunner.